every fight to make next in the UFC welterweight division's top 15. You got Usman all the way down to Shafka Rakhmanov with some really good prospects like Brady, like Balal Mohammed, he's definitely a prospect, and then Hamza Chimaev. A lot of guys that are really rising the ranks of this welterweight division. A lot of fighters that do not have fights at the moment in the top 15. The only guys that currently have fights are Shavkat Rakhmanov fighting Neil Magny, or Jafnil versus Vicente Luque. That is literally it. Everything else, nobody has any fights. So, from the bottom, Shavkat is already going to be fighting the number 10 welterweight in the world in Neil Magny. Santiago Ponzinibbio is going to be fighting Michel Pereira. Jafnil is already fighting Vicente Luque. So, we don't have to make any fights to make next for those ones since they already have their fights scheduled. But Jing Liang is the first guy on the list that does not have a fight at the moment. Jing Liang, let's look right here, losing to Hamza Chimaev and losing to Neil Magny as well, but he did beat Santiago Ponzinibbio. It's very tough to say because Lee did lose to Neil Magny, the number 10 welterweight in the world, and he lost to Hamza, the number 3 welterweight in the world. So does that really justify Jing Liang going outside of the UFC rankings? I'm going to actually say no, and there's plenty of guys out there outside of the rankings that deserve a shot into that top 15, like a Daniel Rodriguez, like a Randy Brown, and things like that. But it's very tough. It's very, very tough considering that Jingli Li only lost to Hamza Chimaev, the number 3 guy. Does that really warrant him going outside of the rankings for right now? I don't think it does, but I have a feeling Jing Liang, if he's accepting a fight with Hamza Chimaev like that, I'm assuming he's going to accept a fight with an unranked opponent like a Daniel Rodriguez or like a Randy Brown. So I'm going to be honest, I think we have a very good fight on our hands with Daniel Rodriguez, who beat Mike Perry, Preston Parsons, Kevin Lee, Dwight Grant, Gabe Green, Tim Means, and in my opinion also beat Nicholas Dalby. I think a Daniel Rodriguez Jing Liang fight would be absolutely amazing. So Jing Liang versus, I spelled that one wrong, Jing Liang versus Daniel Rodriguez, finally giving Daniel Rodriguez his top 15 fight, because he definitely has deserved it for a very, very long time, because he's fought a lot of guys outside of that top 15, and he's making a lot of those fights look very, very easy. So D-Rod versus Jing Liang. Michael Chiesa is another guy that I have a feeling is going to get another guy outside of the top 15. Jing Liang, I already have his fight scheduled. Santiago already has a fight. Shavka has a fight. Jafnil has a fight. Magny already has a fight. Sean's already beat him. Jorge's not going to take Michael Chiesa. Thompson's not going to take Chiesa. So Chiesa honestly might be another guy that has to go outside of the UFC welterweight rankings. Muslim Salikhov does not deserve a top 15 fight. He has not fought in a very long time, and he win over Francisco Trinaldo doesn't really cut, especially if all of these wins are decision wins over Loreno Staropoli, Lizu Zaleski, and Francisco. So I'm not going to give Francisco a top 15 fight just yet, and I will give a top 15 fight to Randy Rude Boy Brown. He lost to Nico Price right there, and he lost to Vicente Luque, but he's been doing really good at finishing a lot of these guys like Brian Barberina, Warley Alves, Alex Oliveira, then getting decision wins over Jared Gooden and Chaos Williams. I do think that's good enough to get him a top 15 fight next against none other than Michael Chiesa. I'd like to see if Michael Chiesa is able to go out there, use that wrestling and grappling, take the fight down, and win it there, or if Randy Brown can defend the takedowns, use his takedown defense, his submission defense, keep the fight on the feet, and outstrike Chiesa to a knockout or to a decision. So that would be a fight I also would like to see next, would be Michael Chiesa versus Randy Brown. That would be a very, very solid fight. After that one in the UFC welterweight division rankings, Magny already has a fight. Brady does not have a fight at the moment. We're not going to give him an unranked guy, obviously. He already beat Michael Chiesa, but we're not going to give him a guy below him either. He would beat Neil Magny. He already beat Chiesa. He's not going to get Jafnil, Jing Liang, any of those guys in the UFC welterweight division. Stephen Thompson makes a little bit of sense. Balal, possibly. Gilbert Burns could be a really good fight. But I'm going to go and say It's tough. It's very, very tough on who he's going to fight next, because a lot of the guys in this top 8, top 10 of the welterweight division, they don't like to go down in the rankings fighting a very, very good guy. If they're going to go down in the rankings that far, like Vicente Luque, they're trying to find one of those favorable matchups for them. And Sean Brady is not a favorable matchup for any of these guys in this welterweight division. Khamzat's coming off a win. Leon's coming off a win. Colby, Usman, Balal's coming off a win. Vicente already has a fight. Thompson's looking to fight Dustin Poirier and things like that. Honestly, Gilbert Burns versus Sean Brady, I think that's a good fight to make. Two guys in this welterweight division that look to go out there and take the fight down over and over and over again. Look for that submission or look to dominate the fight on the ground. And that would really test Sean Brady. I would go Gilbert Burns to win that fight. And I know that might be derailing a little bit of the hype from Sean Brady, but it would really put in perspective where Sean Brady really is at in his UFC career at the moment. So I think a fight with Sean Brady and Gilbert Burns would be an amazing, fantastic grappling bout to make in the welterweight division. Gilbert Burns versus Sean Brady. Very good fight there. And after that, Jorge Mazda is at number 8. I like to see him fight someone from the lightweight division. Dustin Poirier is kind of talking about moving up to the welterweight division. Jorge's not going to go down in the rankings. He's not really going to go up in the rankings either. No one really wants to take the fight right now. But he's a money grab for anyone in the lightweight division. We're talking Nate Diaz. We're talking Dustin Poirier. And that's pretty much it. Those are the main two guys. And I don't think we're going to do another rematch with Jorge and Nate Diaz. I'm going to do a Jorge Masvidal Dustin Poirier fight next. Would be a very, very good scrap in the welterweight division. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the next fight for Dustin Poirier, because I can definitely see Dustin Poirier fighting Justin Gaethje next. That is very, very likely. But I think because Poirier is really wanting to go to the welterweight division and Gaethje's already coming off his loss, he's not going to accept a fight that fast with Dustin Poirier. A fight in the meantime with Dustin Poirier and Jorge Masvidal, I like it. I really do like it. And I know Stephen Thompson is talking about he wants to fight Dustin Poirier, but I do like a Jorge Masvidal Dustin Poirier fight a lot better in my opinion. So we're going to put Jorge Masvidal versus Dustin Poirier. Very, very, very good fight there in the welterweight division. We got Stephen Thompson. He did beat Vicente Luque, but he's coming off losses to Balal, Mohammed, and Gilbert Burns. It's tough to say who's going to fight next. Very, very tough to say. There's not a lot of options for Stephen Wonderboy Thompson right now. He's getting up there in his age, and there's not really too many guys that really scream that he should be fighting next. He did beat Vicente Luque, and he did also beat Geoff Neal, so that kind of rules them out of the equation. He lost to Anthony Pettis there until... it's very tough. It would have to be... honestly, the winner of Shafka, Rakhmanov, Neil Magny. That would be the fight to make. Would be one of those two guys. I think it would be Shafka, Rakhmanov. So I'm going to say Shafka, Rakhmanov versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson next. That would be a very good fight as well. Stephen Thompson, am I spelling it right? Thompson versus winner of Shavkat Rakhmanov versus Neil Magny. Very, very solid guys right there. After that one, in this welterweight division, Vicente Luque already has his with Geoff Neal. Balal Mohammed. Who should Balal Mohammed fight next? This is tough. This is very, very tough. It's not too tough. I don't think Khamzat's going to do it. Khamzat versus Colby. Probably his next. Gilbert. He's probably not going to want to go down that. Go down in the rankings or anything. He probably wants a very, very good fight next. So I'm going to actually say Balal Mohammed versus Leon Edwards if he loses to Kamaru Usman. That would be the fight to make next right there. So Balal Mohammed versus Leon Edwards rematch if he loses to Kamaru Usman. That would be the fight I'd want to see there. Gilbert Burns. That's a tough one because Hamza already beat Gilbert Burns. That is the only fight I really have trouble on who Gilbert Burns should be fighting next. It's very, very tough. But I mean, Sean Brady was the main pick right there. There's plenty of other guys he could fight. You could do him versus the loser of Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman. But I'm going to stick with what I have in Sean Brady versus Gilbert Burns. Two very, very good grapplers there in the UFC welterweight division. Last guys is going to be Khamzat Chimaev and Colby Chaos Covington. I know they're working on Khamzat versus Nate Diaz, or trying to make the fight. Nate Diaz wants no part of that fight. So I'm assuming they're probably going to do Khamzat versus Colby Covington. That would be the last one right there. Khamzat Chimaev versus Colby Covington. And those are the last fights to... I mean, it's not necessarily official yet, Usman and Leon Edwards, so we'll still add that one next. That is the fight to make next for the belts, and we'll just add it for why not. Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards right there. So those are the fights I think should happen next in the welterweight division. Jing Liang versus Daniel Rodriguez, Michael Chiesa versus Randy Brown, Gilbert Burns versus Sean Brady, Jorge Mazda versus Dustin Poirier, Stephen Thompson versus the winner of Shafka, Rakhmanov, and Neil Magny, Balal Mohammed versus Leon Edwards rematch if he loses to Kamaru Usman, and then Khamzat Chimaev, Colby Covington, and Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. The fights that have already been announced: Vicente Luque, Joff Neal, and Shavkat Rakhmanov have taken on Neil Magny. Some really good fights here. We also have Santiago Ponzinibbio taking on Michel Pereira, which is going to be a good one. Can't wait to see what happens in this welterweight division. But those are my fights to make next in the top 15 of the UFC welterweight division. Do you disagree or do you agree? Put your thoughts down below, like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Let's go.